Hello, my name's Jade and today I'm going to be discussing the books I read in December. I read 10 books total in December. 3 of them were novels, 3 of them were graphic novels, 3 of them were short story collections, and 1 of them was poetry collection. So we have a variety here for you today. The first book I finished was Ink, Blood, Sister, Scribe by Emma Torres. This is a standalone fantasy. It says in the back, 2 sisters tasked with guarding a library of magical but deadly books, a shadowy organization that will risk anything to possess them, even murder. It is quite a slow burn, this one. Like, it takes a little while to really kind of get sunken into the world and to figure out what the story is actually going to be about here. So I don't want to say too much about the premise. I mean, I think the back maybe gives enough. It is about 2 sisters, but they've been separated. One of them opens up in Alaska doing like some kind of research project, and she's kind of been on the run for most of her life. And the other one is at home and her father has passed away and she's looking after his library. Magic is involved, so these books have magical properties. We have another perspective, and oh my goodness, would it be a video of mine if I didn't forget someone's name? You know, I don't even think he's mentioned in here, but he's one of our povs and he was actually my favourite pov, I think. And he is kind of more attached to that shadowy organisation that we were talking about. I loved the mystery aspect of this. It definitely has that, because it's a slow burn, because it takes a little while for things to figure out. We're kind of constantly learning and figuring out what the hell's going on throughout the whole book, more or less. It definitely has a hardcore mystery pull to it, and it just has a really nice quality to it. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Erin Morgenstern's books, where they just have this really intense atmosphere. They're very atmospheric, and this one was a little bit like that as well. I felt like I was completely pulled in, completely immersed in the story, and it had just like this delectable atmosphere to it. The writing really helped with that. It just suited the tone so well. The characters were really fun. Like I said, our lead guy was so much fun to hang out with. I had a blast with him. Like I said, it's quite slow at first, but when it picks up, it picks up. And I can't remember, to be honest, if I was bored in the beginning. I think I was uncertain. I wasn't sure how to feel about it. But then as it got going and the plot really kicked into gear, I was so thrilled to be along for the ride. I really enjoyed this one. It came to my attention because Alex E. Harrow blurbed it. This book is so many things at once: an adventure, a puzzle, a twisty thriller, and a tender romance. I adored it. I'd say it's fairly accurate. I don't know if it would say like it's hardcore, all of those things, but it's definitely got elements of all of them. The cover is also stunning. I have the Waterstones exclusive edition with these sprayed edges, and I just love it. The American cover is also really pretty. It looks like this. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. Probably give it maybe an 8.5 out of 10. I don't think it's quite a 9 out of 10, but it's definitely more than an 8. So probably somewhere around an 8.5, I think. And then next up we have a short story collection, and that's The Winter Spirits Ghostly Tales for Frosty Nights. Now, I read The Haunting Season, which is kind of like the companion. This one kind of came out first. I can't remember when I read it. I want to say October. That feels like it makes sense. I'll link the video where I discuss that one down below, and I really loved this one. It's one of my favourite short story collections, if not my favourite short story collection I read in 2023. So when I knew they were having a Christmas one, I actually pre-ordered this one like before I had even read The Haunting Season, and so I was like, well, now I've got to read both of them. I didn't enjoy this one as much as I enjoyed The Haunting Season. So it's a bunch of short stories from all of these different authors. This one like is bigger than The Haunting Season, and it's got more authors collected. And the main premise with this one, like The Haunting Season, it's ghostly tales for a long winter nights, whereas this one's like ghostly tales for frosty nights. It's like it's supposed to be more Christmassy is the vibe I got from it. My main problem with this is I didn't love the ideas and the premises of a lot of the stories. Like this one that's really vividly burned into my mind, and I just I didn't enjoy it, so I don't know why it's so really burned into my mind and why I can't stop thinking about it. Maybe that proves it was something like decent. The Master of the House by Stuart Turton, he was one of the new authors to this one. Host was okay. I liked Inferno by Laura Shepherd Robinson. The Old Play, I enjoyed The Old Play. That was really interesting, by Andrew Michael Murray. A Double Thread. Double Thread. Oh yeah, that was pretty decent. The Salt Miracles by Natasha Pulley, that is almost definitely my favourite one. It was so mysterious and so intriguing. I loved the tone. It was really well written. I was just like really like, what the hell is going on here? Banished by Elizabeth McNeill. That one was interesting. Banished is interesting. It's based on a short story, but I wasn't obsessed with it either. Gargoyle by Bridget Collins, I'm pretty sure I skimmed that one. I just wasn't interested. The Master of House, we've talked about, it was, I don't know, it was just so weird. Idle Arc was fine. It was interesting, yeah, it was fine. Jenkin? Like, again, that was another one that started off, I was like, this is really weird. I don't know how I feel about this one. But actually, I really ended up enjoying that one. Widow's Walk, Susan Stokes Chapman. Oh, no, that one was good. I mean, I saw what was coming, like I knew what was going on here. Carol of the Bells and Chains, again, I can't remember that one even a little bit. Oh, yeah, that was okay. I don't know, it just was okay to me. I just didn't, like, they were entertaining and well written, but they didn't speak to me. I would give it maybe like a 7 out of 10 on the whole. I think it's down to taste. And then next up is another short story collection, and that is Midwinter Murder by Agatha Christie. This is the last of her like seasonal short story collections that HarperCollins have released, although to be honest I feel like this is the first one that they released and I just read it last. And I'm really gonna miss them, they're so sweet. I mean, I've enjoyed all of these. The only one that didn't like speak to me was the summer one, Midsummer Mysteries. All of the other ones I found really cozy, really easy reads. Most of the stories I enjoyed. And this one's no different. There were some really fun ones in here. It was just, this one felt Christmassy and cozy. They're kind of a bit loose sometimes, the way they fit to their seasons. That kind of makes it entertaining in and of itself. Because you're kind of like, well, okay, yeah, I'll give it to you. It kind of fits. We have such a wide variety of protagonists. We have like Mr. Satterthwaite, and there's another one, Parker Pine, Tommy and Tuppence, Poirot, Maple. They're all there. As well as just like random ones. So they're really nice little collections. They're gorgeous. I would recommend this one. I'll give it probably like an 8 out of 10. And then next up, I really wanted to read a Christmassy rom-com. And Sarah without an H was talking about two. One of them I was thinking of reading anyway, but then she mentioned this one. And because she said it's set in England and it had a really dry, sarcastic sense of humour, it was really funny. I was like, okay, well, I want to give that one a go then. And that's The Christmas Wish by Lindsay Kelk. Now, I listened to the audiobook, but the way she delivered the comedy made it often less like that sarcastic dry tone. Like, she didn't deliver it in a sarcastic dry tone, like she delivered it as if she was trying to be funny, if that makes sense. It was funny, it did definitely had laugh out loud moments, but I don't know if it was like that dry, like sarcastic humor that I was expecting. It's definitely cheesy and it's definitely cliche. So this one is kind of like a Groundhog Day at Christmas situation. Our lead character, Gwen, she keeps reliving Christmas. Like, she's not fully happy with her life at the moment. She went through a breakup, she's got trouble at work, and she is forced to relive Christmas Day until she gets it right. Somewhat similar to In Our Holidays, but In Our Holidays, I feel like we only did Christmas like 2 or 3 times, and we didn't actually go through the motions very much. This one, we relive Christmas Day quite a few times, and because we're literally reliving Christmas Day, it is like saturated with Christmas goodness. There were a lot of like really obvious cheesy bad laughs in here, but like I didn't mind. It kind of, it fit the vibe, it fit the narration style, it fit the story, it fit the Christmassy time. Like, it feels kind of like a cheesy movie, but like in a good way. I had a lot of fun with it. It was really sweet and hopeful in the end, and I think there were a lot of like really nice little messages in here. I thought it was really cute. I just, yeah, I really, like, I was like listening to it on the bus and I was trying really hard to not like smile to myself listening to it on the bus. I liked it. I would recommend it. Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. I'm really glad to have read it. So if you're looking for a Christmas rom-com, maybe consider this one. Oh, what would I give it? I'd give it, what did I give Emmy Henry's books? Like either a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. Is it the most sound? And then next up is a graphic novel, and that is Bad Magic, a Skulduggery Pleasant graphic novel by Derek Landy, illustrated by PJ Holden and Matt Scoff. Murder, magic, monsters, this is what they do. So it's kind of like a little side story. It's the first Skulduggery Pleasant graphic novel. I have a video all about Skulduggery Pleasant if you want to hear more. It's technically a children's fantasy series, but they're just so good. Anyone can read them. They're so good. This whole shelf is taken up by Skulduggery Pleasant novels. It's kind of like a little side quest. We're dealing with a town plagued by monsters. That's what I'm gonna say. It's pretty slow for me at first. I wasn't very invested, but it picked up come the end. It did get interesting. The story though was just kind of fine. I wasn't obsessed with it. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what I can say to you. And I can't really, like, it was just fine. I don't have too many thoughts on this one. Obviously, If you're a fan of the series, I'd recommend it. I don't know if I'd recommend it as your entrance point to the series. I think I'd give it somewhere between a 6 and a 7 out of 10, maybe a 6.5. Just not because I think it was like badly done, just because I don't know, it didn't knock my socks off. It was good, not great to me personally. I hate talking bad about Skulduggery Pleasant books. It like kills me a little bit inside. And then next we have the poetry collection, which is Love Is Enough, Poetry Threaded with Love by Andrea Zanatelli. Now this is like more of like a collection of poems. They're all pretty old and they're all centered around the theme of love. So we have Sir Walter Scott, William Blake, Emily Dickinson, Sarah Teasdale. I think some of hers were some of my favorites. And Andrea's also like done loads of illustrations to accompany them. Some of them are his own, some of them I think are from other people, like I think this one's his own. It's a really pretty little book. It's got a foreword by Florence Welch, who is the lead singer of Florence and the Machine. I know that he's like worked on art stuff for her before. I started this at the end of 2022 and it took me a whole year. I just put it down and I never picked it back up. I think without like a reader's companion, I read a lot of this kind of poetry at uni and at school, but obviously you were in a class, you were able to discuss it. Without someone to discuss it with, I was kind of like, I don't know what to make of this for a lot of them. But I always thought that I really loved this style of poetry, so it was really interesting to kind of like force myself through this collection and see like, maybe I struggle with this style a little bit, maybe I'm still trying to find my footing with authors that I like. I do think I really like Christina Rossetti and I do want to read more of her work. I think if you like this kind of poetry, it's a really pretty little collection. Just I struggled with it a little bit, clearly. It's really hard to rate because I want to give it like a slightly lower rating just because of my personal experience with it, but I don't think that's by any way a reflection of A, the poems in here, or B, Andre's like collecting them together and accompanying with the artwork, which is really what he did. His work is more of an editor and I think his role was completely fine. I liked a lot of the art in fact and the way it was decorated. It's a beautiful little book. So I'll give it somewhere around a 7 out of 10 and we'll leave it there. Honestly, I'm glad I just finished it because it looked like it wasn't going to happen for a while. I got my hair cut yesterday and I can't like stop touching it. Okay. Next up is another short story collection, and that's A Christmas Carol and Other Christmas Writings by Charles Dickens. I struggled with this one, and I'm completely honest. The last like good chunk of stories skimmed at best, and I also didn't read A Christmas Carol because I'd already read A Christmas Carol. So really the ones that I read with like properly was like only half of them, but you know, I'm gonna count it because I make the rules here. When I say count it, I mean like count it as a read and not a DNF. I read it enough. I read Christmas Festivities, The Story of the Goblins Who Stole a Sexton, A Christmas Episode from A Master Humphrey's Clock, The Haunted Man and the Ghost Bargain, A Christmas Tree, and then the last two I kind of skimmed. It wasn't for me. I really enjoyed A Christmas Carol as well, so I was kind of surprised. But maybe I wasn't in the mood. Maybe they were just a little bit slow. Maybe I didn't feel like reading and I was very tired in December. I felt very run down, I will say that. So I do think a lot of it was like because I wasn't in the mood for it. A lot of them were just like him, like a couple of them I remember were just like him setting the scene. I was like, I don't care. I don't need the scene set. I think I struggle with his writing style a little bit, and I always kind of thought that would be the case because it's so dense, so on the nose, and like he's just constantly telling you things. I would give it like a 5 out of 10. Like based on that experience, that is the highest, maybe even a 4 out of 10. I like A Christmas Carol though, so I don't want to give it too low a rating. Next I have two graphic novels that I'm going to talk about together and you'll see why. Lore Olympus Volume 4 and then Lore Olympus Volume 5. I had Lore Olympus Volume 4 sitting myself for a really long time, and then over Christmas I like was in the mood to read it, and I'm pretty sure I read the first one over Christmas time, so maybe that has something to do with it. I have a feeling I read the first one and the second one around Christmas time actually. I read Volume 4, devoured it. I read it in like 2 days and then I was obsessed and I was like, well now I need to know what happened, so then I Amazon Primed Volume 5. I read it like a day later. I really love this series. It's a Hades and Persephone retelling, but it's very cartoonized. It's very cute. There's some really heavy themes in here. There's just something about it. Like Persephone is so cute and bubbly and anxious, and she's just so much fun. And Hades equally is so much fun. All of the characters are so much fun. They're so fun to watch them interact, and their dialogue they're really good at talking to each other, but also it's just really entertaining. Man, I don't know what else to say. I love the art. I love how readable it is. It's so easy to fly through clearly. And Volume 5 in particular, Like, it really ramped up. I'm so excited for volume 6. I need to know what happens. Like, I'm so... yeah. I'm just having a blast with the series. Kind of not too dissimilar from Heartstopper in terms of like vibes. Like, it's got that readability, the really big bold art style, kind of cute, but it's like with a Greek myth retelling spin on it. Slightly older themes. They're just so good. Everyone should read them. I would give both of these an 8 out of 10. And then lastly, the last book I read in December, and indeed 2023, was Cruel Seduction by Katie Roberts, book 5 in the Neon Gods series. I actually read like the entirety of this series, like this up to date this year. And this one we're following Aphrodite. Oh, we're following a lot. We're following Aphrodite, Hephaestus, Adonis, Pandora? Why can I not? Pandora. Went through like a huge section where Pandora just wasn't present. We see from all 4 of their pops, which is probably definitely the most ambitious of her series yet. I get so confused with the names because the way the gods work in this world is not like you're not born a god, like you become a god. It's more like a position, a role. So like if a god is killed, then someone needs to replace that god. So say someone kills Poseidon, someone then become Poseidon, and depending on the role would depend on like how it works. Sometimes there are games, sometimes I think it's hereditary, sometimes hereditary is that like it's passed through families. It's also like other clauses that I don't want to get into much because spoilers for the series, but it's really, that aspect is so interesting, and like the political games of that I really enjoy. I talked about this I think when I reviewed Radiant Sin, the most recent book. I'll link the video where I've discussed all of her books so far down below, because there's only 2 videos. I read like 2 in one month and then 2 in another month. And I think I read these books for the plot. And that's not what they're for. I really enjoyed Neon Gods and Electric Idol. There was just something about them. There's like some kind of magic in the air for me with those 2. And then the other 2, really enjoyed the second half of Wicked Beauty, but the first half was really slow, and then Radiant Sin, I kind of enjoyed the first half, but then the second half was really slow. So I had problems with both of those. I liked this more than Wicked Beauty and Radiant Sin. I think I like that break, that extended period of time was like, I needed that break. But it still didn't have quite the same magic that was there when I read Neon Gods and Electric Idol. So this is kind of like a mid book for me. This one, I like the politics and stuff really ramped up, and this one I think that's why I enjoyed it more. Like there's a lot going on, and there's like a new element was introduced in Radiant Sin, or maybe even Wicked Beauty actually, but then it really ramped up in Radiant Sin, and then like we're getting somewhere with it now, and I really love this new plot element. I think it's kind of saving these books for me a little bit, to be honest. And I mean, I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the relationships. The sex scenes in this one were fine actually. I didn't have too many problems with the sex scenes in this one. They were decent. I did enjoy this one on the whole. I think they're just a bit long for me maybe. I think they get a bit repetitive, and I'm just like, okay. I'd probably give it like a between a 6 and a 7 out of 10, nearing a 5, just because like the writing can be very on the nose, very repetitive. There's definitely phrases that she repeats a lot. It's kind of mid for me, but I enjoyed it. I'm gonna stop talking about it now. And those were all of the books that I read in December. I would love to hear what you read in December. What were your final reads of 2023? If you have other Christmassy book recommendations, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. And that is all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing morning, afternoon, evening / night. My name's Jade. I hope I see you again next time. Goodbye!